Welcome everybody to the All-Star edition of the Games and Simulation Committee. Tonight we have Joe Bryan, who's going to talk about his game. I don't want to announce it in case I get it wrong. And I don't have my notes in front of me. So I will let Joe take it over and talk about his game.
Well, thanks for having me. Yes, the baseball game is Payoff Pitch Baseball. It's been around since 2013, I believe. If I recall correctly, it's been a while. So I did try to set up a game. I don't know. You can kind of maybe not see it at all. No, that's blurry as heck. Well, I tried. Uh, Yeah, I'm not very good with technology, so I apologize. I would like to demo the game. I don't, let's see if I can get this camera to work. No, it's just blurring. Let me just change one setting and see if that helps. There we go. That's
There you go.
there. All
That
right.
looks fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I set up the first game of the 1983 World Series between Philadelphia and Baltimore. With one change, I added the DH to the game since it's in Baltimore. I don't. So this is Baltimore's ballpark card. Let me pick that up a little and see if I can. No one wants to see my fingers, but is that clear enough? It's hard for me to tell on my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so each ballpark has this top section. The pitcher cards will have a ballpark result on them. John Denny has the ballpark result at 2 or 12. So if you roll two six-sided dice and the result is 2 or 12 on Denny's card, you would go to Baltimore's card and roll the percentile dice, which 1 to 99 is listed here. 0 would be a rare play, so you'd go to the rare play chart. And if the batter's left-handed or right-handed, determines if they're going to look at their wheelhouse result or their in-play result. And then the bottom section of the card is to resolve defensive checks, either a range check or an air check. And each ballpark has their unique ratings. So it's rare that any ballpark would have the same ratings. And the ratings are calculated based on each season. So the Memorial Ballpark in 1982 will look a little different than the 1983 card. So that's the ballpark card. And I'll just start like a normal game and then explain everything as we go. I think that might be the best way.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not, but so Philadelphia would bat first. I'm not sure how, probably can't see these too well. So Scott McGregor's the pitcher for Baltimore. He started that first game, and then I have Philadelphia's lineup here. To play the game, you roll 4 dice, 2 six-sided dice, which reference the pitcher card, and then the percentile dice, or 2 10-sided dice. I read them 00 to 99. 00 is always a rare play, so I have some rare play charts that you would look at if the result was 00. And like baseball, you roll the 2 six-sided dice first. The result is 6. I don't know if you can see it, but Scott McGregor's card, 6 is the in-play result. So you would roll the 10-sided dice and then look at Morgan's in play. 1 to 7. I'm sorry, these are the standard cards, so they just show one set of rating. I also have the position players cards. They also have a versus left-handed and versus right-handed pitcher column. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't have those handy. I actually thought I had the cards with splits on, but this is the standard card that doesn't have any splits. But the split sets obviously would have splits. So as I was saying, a 6 on McGregor's card is an in-play result. So you go to the in-play section of the batter, which is Joe Morgan. You roll the percentile dice. 1 to 7 would be a double. 8 to 24 will be a single. And anything above 24, you go to the outs. And then you read the outs here. And that's a simple way to play. So I rolled a 29 on the 10-sided dice. Since that's outside 24, 29, Morgan would have popped up to the catcher. So that's the basic way to play. You always roll first on the pitcher card, then on the batter card. The only times you don't is when you have a ballpark result or a defense result. As I mentioned at the beginning, a ballpark result takes you to the ballpark card to determine if you're going to use the batter's wheelhouse or in-play section. And then if you roll defense on the pitcher card, you would go to the defense chart to determine the position being checked and if it was a range check or an air check. And then you would use the ballpark card and the fielder's ratings, which are usually up in this corner. So for Morgan, he plays second base. He has a range of B and an air of 2. An A range is the best, an F range is the worst. For the airs, 5 is the best, 1 is the worst. And so that's the basic way to play. If you don't want to use dice, I do have fast action cards that can be used. And they have dice results on the top of them. So you can use the dice results on the fast action cards along with the player cards. And then the fast action cards have runner advancement underneath the dice results. And then they have the defense chart, sack bunt chart, and the stealing chart. The fast action cards do not replace all the charts, but they replace, I would say, 85 to 90% of the results. And most people, when they play with the fast action cards, they'll shave like 5 to 10 minutes off game time rather than rolling the dice. But everyone plays at a different pace. So that would be it. And this all comes with the game. You have the game board. I provide the dice. I have some meeples to be used as base runners if you so choose. A wooden disc to track the outs. And then there's several charts that come with the game that will. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. That provide all the rest of the results that aren't on the player cards. You have base running rules, hit locations, advanced base running, coach's choice charts, sack bunch charts, stealing charts, rare play charts. But most of the action is derived directly from the player cards. So that's just a quick overview of the game. Does anyone have any questions, or would you like me to continue?
Joe, I got a quick question. Do any of the plays end in the pitcher's card? In other words, is the pitcher's ability, does that affect whether a play actually ends on the pitcher's card?
No,
Okay.
no. The action starts every at bat starts on the pitcher's card.
And they don't end
And
there though.
nope, they'll end on the batter card.
Got it.
So you'll pitch, you'll reference pitcher card, then in most cases you'll go directly to the batter card and get the end result, and then that will be it.
Okay. And how does the pitcher's ability influence the result of the play?
So do I have? Yeah, I don't know. Are you able to see these?
Um,
I'm gonna
yeah,
hold them up, but let's just
yep,
let me know if you could see. Oh, geez.
yep, I can see Palmer. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was losing my headset here. All right, these are viewable.
Yep.
Yeah, so as you can see, each pitcher has unique. They have the same ratings, but they're arranged uniquely. So the pitcher's ability is based on their results here.
Okay.
So
So tough would be good.
so tough is good. It leads to strikeouts and it limits the number of hits the player
Okay.
allows. And in play is your normal result where the batter, hits the ball and it stays in the field of play. So it won't be a home run, but it could be a single, a triple, double, ground out, fly out.
Okay.
Patient will lead to walks and hit by pitches. And then wheelhouse is where the batter has a chance to hit a home run.
Okay. So looking at these two cards, I can see that Palmer has a better card.
So it's not. It's slightly better, but
Okay.
Palmer has a slightly higher walk.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I see. The other way around. Got it.
yeah, he'll give
Got
up
it.
more walks, and his
Gotcha.
wheelhouse is at 4, so it's
Okay.
actually much worse than
Oh, I see.
um,
I misinterpreted. So having less patient is actually better. Got it.
right. So
Got it.
so it's a little so the tough result is good for the pitcher. Patient and wheelhouse is good for the
It's good for the
batter.
hitter. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So and then each card will be different. The players or pitchers with higher strikeouts will have more strikeouts. Like
Okay.
um, McGregor was so he gave up 9.4 hits, but he didn't give up many walks or strikeouts. So you'll see that he doesn't have many. Storm Davis had 5.6, and then he gets more tough
Okay.
results. And then he also gave up less hits. So by having more tough results, he will automatically uh, allow less hits because each batter's card uh, has less hits in their
I see.
tough section than they do in their like in play or wheelhouse section.
That's great. That makes sense. And I like the fact that you have the stats listed on the card as well.
Yes, and then so these are the printed and pre-cut cards. I have a local printer that professionally prints them. The PDF actually have a few more stats on because they're a little larger, and I could fit more on the PDF
Okay.
cards. But they all still have the same basic stats.
Great.
Uh,
They look like quality cards.
they are they're pretty sturdy. Most people tell me that they're the highest quality cards they've used.
Yeah.
I, I don't I don't know if that's true or not. I'm sure other games also have good quality cards. I just these seem to be of high quality.
Yeah.
And that's really all due to my printer. The actual card stock we agreed on when I went to them was not this one. He upgraded it and then still charged me the same price he was going to charge me for the lower quality cardstock.
Nice.
So, and then he's kept that up, and I've been using him for, wow, probably 7 or 8 years now. So, but I am one of his,
Sounds like a good relationship.
yes, especially during COVID, I
Yeah.
became one of his top 2 customers. So, um, is there anything else you would like to see on the game? Otherwise, I'm going to move the camera back up.
I'm
I
just
just
wondering,
add,
maybe I was going to say if you could just run through maybe like an inning just to kind of simulate, I guess some various plays that might come up.
Sure, I can do that. Let me get a little.
And how many players per team do you generally have with the printed sets?
The every player that had pitched in a game or had an at bat during the regular season game is included.
Okay, so there's no cutoff with like,
No,
you know,
so for only in the recent seasons in 2022 and 2023, I started offering a full set, so every player, as well as like a 35-man card set. So I just provide just the 35 top players, usually 18 batters and 17 pitchers, or 20 batters and 15 pitchers, whatever the mix of the players is.
I was going to say the way teams run through pitchers nowadays, I guess some of them are using upwards of, seems like 40 or 50 guys by the end of the year. So
Yes, unfortunately they are. So I still have I still give each player, each person the option whether they want to have every player carded or just a reduced amount. But for most seasons, especially historical seasons, I card everyone. There, excuse me, there's like 3 seasons, I think 54, and I'd have to look up the other 2, I think 94, and then one other one where I did not card every season. I only carded players that had 10 or more innings pitched or 25 or more plate appearances. Those were some early ones where I wasn't sure which direction to go in, but uh, then I decided just to card everyone because a couple that those sets have each player that started a game, but not necessarily every bench player or relief pitcher. But if they started a game, I tried to include them so people that do as played lineups would always have a card, even if the player only had 4 at bats in one game. I just need to find. I kind of mixed up the stacks here, so. All right. So for that first, for Joe Morgan, he popped out to the catcher, so I was just gonna record that as I go. Makes it easier for me. The next batter would be Pete Rose for Philadelphia. And just one comment I wanted to make was obviously the game is able to be played solo and more or less designed to be played solo. There's I have so the bunting ratings, the letter grade is their success. I don't am I oh there. So Morgan has a B and a 2 in his bunt ratings. The B is how successful of a bunter he is. Again, A would be the best, F would be the worst. And then 2 is how often he bunts. So if you're playing, there's an auto bunt rule, and that is if you roll the dice and you roll a 2, then instead of checking the pitcher card, you would just go right to the sacrifice bunt chart if there was a runner on. So it's an automated bunt system, and that's what the 2 is for. And also with the stealing ratings too, the number 3 here is a jump rating. It's how often he steals. And then the letter is his success rate. And again, A to F scale. And if you're,
If you attempt to steal, are you doing a check against the catcher's arm, or I guess how does that work?
yes. Let me see if I can find here. So I think you can maybe see this. Joe Nolan, he has a 4-arm. I don't know if that comes in clearly or not, but each catcher and outfielder has an arm rating. For catchers, the rating is 1 to 5, with 1 being the best and 5 being the worst. And then for outfielders, it ranges from 3 to 10, with 3 being the best and 10 being the worst. Yeah. So then when you steal, you compare, like if Rose was on first, you would look at his D steal and the catcher's 4-arm, and then there's a chart to determine if it's successful or not. But maybe that will come up as we roll through a few batters. If you're playing, the game plays well with 2 players, because the pitching team, can roll the 2 6-sided dice, and then the hitting team can roll the 10-sided dice. So both players are interacting throughout the game. It's not one player rolling when they're at bat and then the other player rolling when it's their turn at bat. Everyone stays in the game. Like I said, you would use both the pitcher and batter cards in nearly every at bat. So Pete Rose, let me slide these over. I don't know. 3 is the defense check. So roll and it's 88. And I have to grab the chart here. Oh, don't want to hold that too close. Let's see. So 88 is here, and it's an air check on the left fielder. I don't know if anyone can see that, but so 87 to 91 would be an air check on the left fielder, and since we rolled 88, we'll be checking Baltimore's left fielder, and I have a, oh, sorry. Where did I put Baltimore? Here they are. Oh, and I think I have Lowenstein playing in left field. So he has a range of D and an air of 3, and we're checking his air rating. So that's 3. And then we go back to the ballpark card. And next to 3, we'll reroll the 10-sided dice. If it's 1 to 48, there'll be an air, and if it's 49 to 99, it's out. So we'll see what we got here. I'm reading the blue die first, so it's 0-8, so it's an air. Just randomly looking at the fact. An air for outfielder is a single +1. So in this case, Pete Rose hits a single to the left, and then Lowenstein misplays it, and Rose will advance a second on the air. And that would be the result. So I'm just going to note that down because I'll forget. E7. All right. Then the next batter for Philadelphia is Mike Schmidt against McGregor with 1 out. 5. 5 is patient. And the 10-sided dice is 3-0. Under patient, Mike Schmidt has a 1 to 81 for a walk. So since 30 falls within 1 to 81, it's a walk. So now there's runners at first and second. Sixto Lescano is the next batter for Philadelphia. 10 is in play. 98 is almost always an out. And Lescano will fly out to left field for the out. Just a quick aside, the basic base running rules are determined by the result on the pitcher card and by the hit. So 1 base for a single, 2 bases for a double. But this was an out, and there's no one at third, so I'm not going to check for advancement. Just leave everyone where they are, first and second, with 2 outs. And Gary Matthews steps up for Philadelphia. I rolled a 12, which is tough, and then a 66 under tough is outside the ranges. His range goes to 56, so this is going to be an out, and 66 will be a ground ball to second. So Matthews grounds out to second to end the inning for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think I read on the tutorial on your website, if there's 2 outs, the runners advance
2 bases.
further, 2 bases. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. It depends a little bit on their run rating. So each player has a run rating which is based on how often they scored and how often they took an extra base. In usually Baseball Reference or Retro Sheet, you can find that that information. So it's not, even though it says run, it's not a measure of foot speed. So faster guys won't necessarily have a higher run rating. It's used to determine how often they score and take extra bases. So Baltimore is going to come up, and I did it again, mixed up the stacks here. Thought I had this all sorted out. Huh. Okay, put that over there. Sorry, I put the Baltimore players on top of the Philadelphia players. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Al Bumbry's going to lead off for Baltimore. Denny 5 is in play. 69 is going to be a ground out to shortstop for Bumbry. Okay. Jim Dwyer batting second. Another 5, which is in play. 46 will be another out. And it's a ground ball to first base. And I will just have it be unassisted. So that's 2 outs for Cal Ripken. 6 is a tough. I don't know if you can see that well, but Ripken's tough result. Strikeout is 1 to 42. And then 43 to 44 is a double. 45 to 56 is a single. Let's see what we get here. We got 16, so Denny strikes out Ripken to end the bottom half of the first. So that's the first. We'll just scooch these guys over. Bring back McGregor. All right. So 7 is is a tough, and the dice result was 25, so it's a strikeout to Matthews. Or no, Matthews wasn't up, sorry. It was Gary Maddox, but he still strikes out. 1 to 26 is a strikeout, and the result was 25. I didn't pre-fill the score sheet, so I have to write down the players as we go. All right, so Perez is up. I have him DHing this game. 6 is in play, and then 74 will be an out. It's fly out to center. And let's see if we can't get something a little more exciting here. Another 7. Strikeout is not going to be a strikeout. The result was 69. So we grounded to second base, 4-3, ends the inning for Philadelphia. All right, let's Denny's pretty good pitcher, so he doesn't have a wheelhouse result on his card, but one of the ballpark results on his card could turn into a wheelhouse. Maybe we'll roll one here, but we don't. We roll in play, 65. In play usually only goes into the 30s for most players, sometimes less. 65 would be a ground out to second, so not the most exciting game. Lowenstein, another 8, but it's 0-2, so that's going to be a double. His double is 1 to 5. So Lowenstein doubles against Denny. Now we have a runner at second with 2 outs. Sorry, 1 out. And Singleton is DHing this game. We get a 3, which is tough. And the result was 50, so I don't know if you can how clearly you can see this, but a strike. Singleton would have struck out on a 1 to 43, but he rolled a 50, so he actually is going to have a single. So if you want to add flavor, you kind of have to add your own flavor to it, but Singleton fought off a tough pitch and then singled to put runners at first and third with 1 out. And Rich Dower is batting. A 6 is tough. 58 on Dower. He does not strike out very often, but he also doesn't have very many hits. So 58 results in a fly out to right field. And Lowenstein is at third. I'm just going to check his run rating. He only has a run rating of 4. And the result was from the tough section. So part of the rules are when the fly out is from the tough section, it means it's a shallow fly ball, and you would reduce the runner's rating by 2, and in this case 4 would be reduced to 2, so that would really not be advantageous to try to score. So Lowenstein will hold and Todd Cruz will step up. Three is another tough. Denny's a good pitcher, so that happens a lot. And his strikeout's 1 to 66, so Cruz strikes out to end the inning and the threat. And that takes us through 2 innings, 0-0.
Joe, quick question. When we had a runner on second and we got a single, was there any option to advance or to try to score, or did the game mandate that the runner hold on third?
I was just using the basic running rules. So a single means he advances 1 base.
Okay.
The fast action cards, I could have drawn one of those and used the result on the card. For instance, this one gives you a little flavor. Says a opposite field hit into left or right depending on the batter. So a runner on first would have advanced 1 base and then had the option to advance. And then a runner on second would have scored. So in that case, Lowenstein, if I had drawn this card, if I was using the fast action cards, runner advancement, which I recommend because it speeds up the process and it gives you a little more flavor than just single double. Lowenstein would have scored in that case, and it would have just been an automatic based on the result.
Gotcha.
Does that help? Okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like you can play the game at a very basic level, but then you could add elements of complexity to it.
You can scale it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a hardcore simulation, so I wouldn't say there's like a basic version and a master version, but there's a basic and advanced version, yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
I
Joe.
just want to say this. I think this is a really good game. I played Strat for probably 60 years and playing this game a lot. And Joe's not gonna is that you've got these 4 basic sections. 2 of them are kind of hitterish, wheelhouse and patient, and 2 of them are kind of pitcher based, tough and in play. But it's far more nuanced than that because it depends on the pitcher hitter matchup. And this game really captures the individual attributes of the players. And so, like, there's a tournament in Milwaukee at the end of the month that I'm going to, and I'm bringing the 1933 Washington Senators, mainly because against modern teams, which are going to be riddled with tough pitchers, right, who strike people out. These guys don't strike out. Their tough columns are really good because they don't have a lot of power, but don't strike out. So that it's a 1 to 6. Goose Gaza has a 16% chance to strike out and then gets a hit after that. So it's an interesting matchup. It really depends on who's the hitter. Some really, really good hitters, George Brett, et cetera, they're going to be tough in the tough column. They're going to strike out, but they're also going to hurt you if you don't get the strikeout. Matty Alou isn't going to hurt you in the wheelhouse column as much because he's not going to hit it out. He's going to get a single maybe. And the old pitchers, like in the 33 Senators, they're going to be in the in-play section a lot because they didn't strike out a lot better. But they also didn't give up a lot of home runs sometimes unless Babe Ruth was playing. So I just think it's a really and playing head-to-head, which I don't get to do very often, it really feels like you're in a game because the pitcher is throwing the pitch and the hitter's reacting. I think that's just really cool. And the stats for me, I don't know if you can see it. Here's the lefty righty switch, and he gives you pretty good at the end. He breaks down to lefty righty, so even if you want to pinch hit or something, you just look down, you can see that he's broken the stats down for you about what they do and the on base slug, etc. And I just think there's just a lot of nuance to the game, and it flows really well. It doesn't take forever to play it once you get the hang of it, and the fast action cards do help you a lot, but you can modify it a lot of different ways without doing a lot of work. So I just think the game really flows really well, and I really like. It's one of the few games that I can look at the card and tell who that hitter is. Strat's always one of the things I've loved about Strat is it does that. Most games, it's a bunch of codes and stuff, and you really don't know. You couldn't just look at the card and say, "Oh yeah, this guy's this." But I can look at a hitter's card or a pitcher's and say, I can know with exactly what kind of hitter or pitcher they were, and just by looking at the card and how it's spread, where they're strong in and where they're weak in, et cetera. So I just think that's just really cool.
Oh,
That's
thank you.
great feedback, Bart. Yeah.
Joe, I'm
Joe.
curious, what was the motivation for you to create this game?
I'm just gonna move the camera up. So ever since I was 10, I've really designed my own games, mostly out of necessity, because I didn't have a lot of opportunities to purchase or play games. A good friend of mine lived around the corner, and we'd get together and play Stratomatic, baseball, pursue the pennant now and then. We even tried out like SPI baseball, and it just, like most people, maybe I played, until I went to college and got graduated college, got a job, had a family, and didn't really have time for the hobby. But when I came back to it about 20 years ago, I just started playing Stratomatic because that's what I'd grown up playing, and I'm like, it's 50-50. It's either it was just bothering me that you get, you roll and you either reference the batter card or you reference the pitcher card, and then it's like there's got to be something out there that starts on the pitcher card and ends on the batter card, like baseball should be. So I searched a little bit, and I there were some games that seemed like they might have some of those elements, but it wasn't enough for me. So I just decided that I'd create my own, and I spent probably 3 or 4 years working on the game. At the time, I was close friends with Jeff Downey from Downey Games, and he took a look at the game and said it was something that people might be interested in, and so I completed it and offered it to the public.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
I'm curious how you handle pitcher fatigue, um, you know, as they work their way through the lineup several times. How do you adjust the results so that the pitchers don't just continue performing as well as they did at the beginning of the game?
Yes, I have so the fatigue rating itself is probably like most games. Starters have a inning, usually 5, 6, 7, 8 when they might fatigue. Excuse me. And relief pitchers are rated short or long relievers, and I kind of borrowed that from Pursue the Pennant in what I was thinking. And to answer your question, I have fatigue pitcher cards. Just gonna see if I can. I don't know how well these will show up. Was that in focus, or hopefully it is. But so when you roll a ballpark, I don't know if you can read it, but for starting pitchers, when they're considered fatigued, you still use their base card, but there are some changes. Like all ballpark results automatically turn to wheelhouse results. So you wouldn't go to the ballpark chart. You would just say, nope, they're fatigued. So we go to the wheelhouse result, see if the batter hits a home run or not. The patient result may change. So once you get a patient result, instead of referencing the batter card in their patient section, you look at the fatigue pitcher card. And if the result is 1 to 67, it stays patient. And then it could also become changed into an in-play result or a wheelhouse result. And same for tough. When you get a tough result on a fatigue pitcher, it might be a tough result, or it might change to an in-play or wheelhouse result. So that was my solution, how to handle fatigue. So the better pitchers will still be better because you still have the option to use the actual result. And then the worst pitchers will become even worse because you'll have patient results turn into wheelhouse results and tough results turn into wheelhouse results. Does that,
Okay,
uh,
thank you. Thank
does
you.
yeah, that answer the question okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
sorry if you couldn't see the card. Uh, I I'm not really good with Zoom, so I don't know if there's a way to make make things bigger, but yeah, we can move ahead.
Yeah, no, I think the card looked fine. What was I going to ask? Oh, do you have, I know you mentioned a rare play chart. Is there anything to accommodate for injuries?
Yes. Yeah, so injuries can happen either as part of the rare play chart or on the stealing chart. The base runner or fielder could be injured on the stealing chart, on the coach's choice chart when a runner is trying to attempt to advance an extra base. Either the fielder or air runner could be injured. So there's several injuries, but they're all the same. Like it would apply equally to every player, the chance of getting injured. And then each player does have their own injury rating, which is prone, normal, durable, or iron. And then you would use those ratings to determine the severity and length of the injury. Yes.
And then I guess if you're doing an as played game or season that you could just ignore if you rolled an injury.
You're right. Yes, I believe most people will, if they roll an injury, they'll remove the player from the game, but just for that game, and then they follow the as played rule lineups going forward.
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
Joe, I noticed you have range and error, which I love. What did you use to determine the range ratings?
It depends. So for more modern seasons, I use the new fielding metrics, uh, like the zone ratings, total zone, and I actually look at Fangraphs and Baseball Reference, and I kind of merge all their fielding ratings together to come up with a rating. And then for the air ratings, it's just generally based on how many errors.
Yeah.
I should comment on that. It's that the air rating is actually based on how many errors the fielder makes that allow the batter to reach base. So it's actually reached on errors stats. It's not every error, because if they drop a foul ball and get an error, that's not going to be fit. I'm not going to include that. I'm only going to include errors that allow the batter to reach base, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in some cases, payoff pitch might give you a little less errors, but if you look at the errors compared to reach down error stats, you'll see a good correlation.
Excellent. Cool.
Joe, what do you on? You said on the modern teams you use the advanced metrics.
Oh, right.
What do you
Sorry.
do on the range for the older teams?
Yeah, it's basically based on range factor. So just the amount of assist putouts, and I include errors because they reached that ball. Even if they made an error in it, they still reached it. So I would use errors, putouts, and assists and compare them to the league average. When the more modern metrics aren't available.
Joe, so I'm guessing at some point you would have like replayed a whole season, or others have.
Yep.
How close did they come to the actual results?
Very close, within 1 to 2% of the amounts. It I should say it varies. There's been multiple people that have completed season replays, either single season or full season. There are a couple where batting averages were low, 10% lower than they should be. But then all the other ones, they're within a percent or two or higher than what they should have been. So all evens out in my eyes. So as long as the aggregate amount gets us to where we should be, then I'm not too concerned. Sometimes walks are a little low because I take out intentional walks. They're not included in the walk ratings. So if someone's playing the game and they're not intentionally walking people at the same rate as they were in that season, then they would get lower walks, a lower amount of walks. But otherwise, people reported that stolen bases come out. I mean, everything comes out reasonably.
And stolen bases are not optional. In other words, the game mandates when a stolen base occurs.
So I actually have 3 options that a person could choose from. One is the automated option, like we had discussed. And then you can also just choose, if you just want to if you want to have them steal every app,
If
every
you want to
time
be
they get
like
on, you
Whitey
can.
Herzog, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So it's up to the gamer. They can do that. The pitchers do have a hold rating, so there's a chart that, uses the hold rating and the runner's jump rating together. To be honest, it's modeled after the Pursue the Pennant jump chart. So some people say there's too many, it's too easy to get a jump, but if you're planning on stealing anyway, I mean, you can just steal. So at least offers some possibility to have the runner hold.
Do you do anything with like defensive shifts, positioning, like infield in the
No.
corners?
Just the basics like corners in, infield in.
Mhm.
You can, yeah, and there's an infield in chart. So if you have the infield in and there's the result to ground ball, it can change the result to a hit. It gets past the drawn in infield, or it will tell you if the fielder's going home if there's a runner on third, which I assume that's why you're playing in, or if they can't make a play at home, so they just get the batter out. Yeah.
Hey, Joe, when you were designing the game, I'm really curious, what was the most difficult aspect of, let's call it real baseball, to duplicate in the game where it felt right to you and the results were realistic, as realistic as you wanted them to be?
The most difficult, maybe the whole game. I I mean, it wasn't easy coming up with a system that, is based on both the pitcher and the batter and doesn't involve some sort of like adjustments. I I've seen a lot of games where either the pitcher or batter has the rating and then the other adjusts that rating.
Mhm.
That's a lot easier to do than what I came up with. And there's still sometimes where I'll go ahead and rate a season, and then I have just a Excel program that I run every at bat that happened during the real season. And despite my attempts, the one of the stats will be off, so I'll have to manually intervene, I'll say, and make sure the walks are right or the strikeouts are right. Especially with modern seasons, the number of strikeouts, I guess I didn't foresee that when I first created the game and was rating, 1970s and 1980s seasons. I never realized that we would be strikeout or home run, and those were the 2 outcomes. So
Right.
So the modern season, the recent modern seasons have been difficult to rate for strikeouts. The home runs not so much. I guess the reason I say it's difficult is because I do want cross era play. I mean, I want you to be able to match up 2023, whatever, Baltimore against 1970 Baltimore if you want to, and still have realistic outcomes. So there's I will say it's not always a set formula that's used for every season and statistic. Sometimes it has to be adjusted to make sure that I get both realistic results if you're just replaying that season, or if you decide to play, a tournament from teams throughout baseball history. I still want that to happen. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. I would say double plays, actually, to answer the question that was asked. Double plays is the most difficult because it's hard to recreate for me. But I like the system I have. It's probably the one. It probably has the most confusion.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really insightful.
Sorry if I went off on a tangent, but
No, I've never tried to design a game, but I've done a lot of I guess Excel work to figure certain games out, and looking at games that way just convinces me that the work that goes into designing them has got to be an order of magnitude, greater than trying to figure them out. So I
Right.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, Joe, I'd just like to say I appreciate some of those weird variations that are like part of it. I mean, from the basic category, a lot of those are you have categories like you'll expand patient to patient out, or you'll have these unique things, and sometimes you have range and error multiple. And I just think I think that's clever. And I think it adapts you to a certain era, and it kind of gives you that feel. And it gives you another wrinkle that's kind of exciting when you see something like, oh, I haven't seen that one before. And it kind of makes you look harder at that team or that player and or that era. So I just think I think whatever you got to do, but it still stays in the flavor of the game. It's just you've managed to manipulate the category how you need it to.
Right. And just I don't have any cards that show the tough out or the patient out, but some pitchers will have ratings. Instead of a tough result, it will say tough out. And in those cases, you check for the strikeout as normal. If it's not a strikeout, you ignore the rest of the ratings in the tough section and just go right to the out chart. So if you have tough out, you can only get a strikeout or a regular out. And then patient out is similar. You can get a walk, a hit by pitch, or an out, but you can't get a hit if the result was patient out, just to explain those two ratings. Not You'll see tough out and patient out in more recent seasons because the number of hits that the pitchers allowed are far less than what they used to. Just because of the strikeouts, and it's all or nothing from the batter perspective.
Joe, have you carded any dead ball seasons for the game?
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with what seasons are available.
Yeah, not as many as people would like, to be honest. I overall there's like 30 or 40. I can't remember the exact amount. I think it was 40 something. But since I do 2 variations of each season, to me it's double the work. But I do have 1889 National League and 1921 available, as well as 1933. Those are probably the earliest I have. I do want to do more like the 1910s, get into that era, but right now my focus is to round out the 60s and 70s because those seem to be the seasons most people want for historical seasons.
Sure. Thank you.
I was
So
going to ask how long it takes you to rate a specific season or card a season.
It depends, but generally 1.5 to 2 months. Obviously that's not 24/7. It's, I come home from work and I work on it for a few weeks, get the initial ratings done, run them through my program to make sure that they're as accurate as I can make them. And there's always a handful of cards that on the surface look like they should be easy to rate and everything works out. But I do, when the information's available, every player is rated against the actual players that they face during the season. So, the league average might be 2.6% home runs, but they faced players that, for whatever reason, were like 1.9%. So the initial rating would be off, and then as a result, it takes some time to dial them in. So I would say like almost 50% of the time of the rating process is just to dial in 20 players. The rest of the players, the formulas took care of them. Everything works. I rerun their at-bats for the season. They all come out where they should. All the formulas say that they come out right. And then I have these other players where they use the same formulas, but they just don't generate the same results because the batters or pitchers they faced were that much higher or lower than the league average.
So it's not that those guys are necessarily outliers, something with their stats. It's based on who they faced, but not that
Yeah.
they themselves were, that they had like some obscure, stat that, somebody gave up 50 home runs in a season or something, that type of thing.
No, those players are actually kind of easy because they just get like, 4 wheelhouse results between 5 and 8, and boom, they're done. But yeah, but the pitcher that, looks like they're league average, but the players they faced against are not league average. Those ones are the ones that give me the most trouble to a card. And I say trouble because I look at their card and it, if they're supposed to give up 20 home runs and they're giving up 23, it bothers me. So I continue to adjust them until they give up 20. Even though I don't need to be 100% spot on accurate with every card, I kind of do. So I, but that also means that when I change one player, then, if I'm dialing in a pitcher and I dial him in, then I have to rerun everything and look at everyone. Now some of the batters might have changed because the pitcher, they face that pitcher more often, so that's why I say like 50% of the time is dialing in those last 20, 25 players, because they just, you change one thing and then it has unintended consequences. So you have to go back and, rethink everything and sometimes start over. So it can be difficult.
It's pretty cool that you do that, Joe, because I don't know that every game does that. I mean, it sounds like you're really trying to base it not on league average, but on who they face, which I just don't think is something that a lot of games do.
Yeah, when I'm able to. I mean, obviously some of the early seasons I don't have every at bat, so I can't do every at bat, but I do my best. And I know a lot of games, they can take a season and put it into an Excel file and spit out the ratings rather quickly. And I wish I could do that. It's just the way I set everything up and the way the ratings interact with each other. It's just not possible for me to do that right now. Maybe someday I'll wake up with a good idea how I can make that happen and still maintain the accuracy that I want.
So, Joe, a couple quick questions. One, I noticed on the website there's the second annual tournament in Michigan. I don't know how much of that you're a part of. I'm curious, how many people would you expect to go to that?
The tournament is it's the second one. 20 would be a good number to build upon last year, yes.
Okay. And have you, or any thought, if you haven't, of going and doing some of the Negro leagues?
I have, and I've actually I believe the 1921 season includes a handful of Negro League players. I had some extra, blank cards at the end that would have been printed, so I just filled in some Negro League players. And I there's since the Negro League stats have become more readily available, I have downloaded them and stored them. It's just I haven't gotten to them yet, but I was hoping to do a 1930s Negro League season actually last year, and it just never happened. So it's on the list, but it, as I said, it does take me a couple months sometimes to do one season. So I apologize to everyone, but I'm not going to be able to crank out a bunch of seasons all at once.
That pesky real job gets in the way.
It does, and I keep buying lottery tickets, hoping I can not have to worry about that and just focus on the game, but it hasn't happened yet.
We feel you. We hear you.
Yeah.
If and when you do that, do you think that the shorter seasons, I know that the schedules were different, there were, just the smaller sample size, would that affect your formulas, and would you have to tweak things a bit?
No. No, I did the Australian Baseball League, 2019, I think, just as uh just to do something different. I I carded the 2019 Australian League, and yeah, that worked fine. There was no scalability problems. Happy with the results, but just because there's fewer players doesn't mean it takes that much less. So at least not the way I do it. So yeah, and it wasn't the best seller, so I just focused on MLB seasons for now.
I don't know if you wanted to mention the website, how to get, how to purchase the game, the price range for the printed versus the PDF, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I can do that. Sidelinestrategy.com is the website, and I have my Payoff Pitch Baseball game. I also have 2 basketball games that are available there. And then I work with a guy named Anthony who has created his own line of games, Glory Days Football and Glory Days Boxing. And I sell those on my site for him. So you can find all those games at sidelinestrategy.com. The PDFs for Payoff Pitch Baseball are $6 for the game parts and $9 for a season. So for $15, you can have the game in any season that I offer. And the printed version, I believe it's $24 printed, maybe $29. And then if you buy it with a season set, you get like a $5 discount. And the card sets, they range from $19 to $59, just depending on the season and how many cards there are. Printing is actually quite expensive, so I wish I could offer them at the printed versions at lower, but it cost me $20 just to have them cut, and that's right off the top. So I'm already selling some of the lower seasons at break even or loss. But I didn't want people to pay $30 for 50 cards or whatever the set is. But yeah, so that's those are the prices. SidelineStrategy.com is the place to go if you are interested in checking the game out.
Great. I'm sure Mark's waiting on the hockey game that's coming out.
Nah,
Hi.
No.
I've been asked several times to do a hockey game, and I could do one. It's just that means I'd have to support it by releasing new card sets, and to be honest, I'm struggling to keep up with Payoff Pitch, so I can't.
Only so much time in the day, right?
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Once I win the lottery, then I can do all all the seasons for all the games.
anybody
What?
have any more questions for Joe?
No, I think it's been great, Joe. Been great hearing you talk about your game.
Oh, great, thank you.
Art, Jay, Jack?
Great
Actually,
game.
I got one last question, Joe. I heard you mention Stratomatic and Pursue the Pennant. Did you play any other board games? Any other, APBA or anything like that, or Replay or anything?
Never, no. For baseball, it was just Stratomatic and Pursue the
Pursue the Pennant.
Pennant. SPI baseball, we tried to play a few times. I don't know how familiar anyone is with that game, but yeah. And then football, it was the same. We played Stratomatic mostly. I did try Status Pro basketball, and I played that, but I didn't play baseball or football for Status Pro.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't. No, I didn't do a lot of manufactured games. We would make up our own games, especially wrestling games for some reason. Yes, we liked that when we were smaller, but yeah, that's all.
Cool.
What team do you follow, Joe?
The Brewers are the local team, so I follow them. They're the only team I really follow now. I do try to follow Philadelphia. Um, I'm not really sure why. Probably because they're relatively good, and I yeah. So Philadelphia and Milwaukee right now. When I was growing up, it was the Pirates. I grew up in Wisconsin, so the Brewers should have always been my home team, but in the late 70s and early to mid 80s, actually early to mid 90s, I was a Pirates fan. So most of my gifts during that time were Pirates hats or related gear. Yeah, I was a pretty big fan of Pittsburgh growing up.
Yeah, definitely some excellent Pittsburgh teams in that era, and then they kind of tailed off a bit in the mid '80s, and then they picked up again. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun players to watch back in that era, though. And the NL East was always, it seemed like a different team won every year. And I know I started watching in '84, and it was Cubs, Cardinals, then it was the Mets, and it was just on and on and on. It was a fight in that division. So.
Right. And then so when I was smaller, the Cubs, I watched a lot of Cubs and Braves games because they were on WGN or Superstation. So, but my favorite team was always the Pirates until probably the mid 90s. And I mean the Brewers were always the second team because they were here. I could go to County Stadium or whatnot. But yeah, but now I just mostly follow the Brewers, and then I'll watch condensed games of the Phillies now and then. Even the A's I watch sometimes just because. I don't know why, but I do. So
Glutton for punishment.
I think so, yes.
I actually got to County Stadium in the 90s because my brother-in-law lives in northern Illinois. And he said, "Oh, we'll go to Wisconsin. It's easier to get to in that than trying to go to downtown Chicago."
Yeah.
And I loved the ballpark. I know it was old and the old gridiron and all that kind of stuff, but I I was really fascinated with the field and really liked it.
Me too.
Okay, last call. Anybody got questions for Joe? Okay, well, Joe, thanks a lot. I mean, this is obviously a project of love. Because like you said, it's not like you're making $1 million off of it. I just want to remind everybody that if you're still on the fence about coming to SABR 52 in Minnesota, which is like your backyard, Joe,
Close.
being in Wisconsin, we'd love to see you there. If you are coming, make sure you point yourself out to Derek and I. I'm not great at remembering names. Derek seems to be really good at it, but sometimes I don't connect somebody I may have seen online like 2 days ago, let alone 2 months ago or anything. So that's coming up. Derek, we got another speaker before we go there, though.
We do. We have Lenny Melnick on August 2nd. What else we got? Well, Don Daglow will be in Minnesota for our committee meeting. And then on September 3rd, we have Chris Witt, who did Deep Drive Baseball. And we've got one more. I'm gonna mess up the name. I think it's Alex. I gotta look it up. Anyway, so we've got several meetings coming up. Yeah, definitely check out the SABR Baseball Gaming website for details. Always looking for folks to provide some content, any videos, articles, if you want to share, your games. If you want to, you're playing a game of Payoff Pitch, you want to, put it up on our YouTube channel, or if you want to share it with us, great. If you want to write about it, whatever, if you're doing a replay, let us know how your replay's going, that type of thing. So.
Sounds good. I think you covered everything, Derek. You left me nothing. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you August 2nd.
Hopefully.
If not, if I got the date wrong, check our Twitter feed, check our Facebook page. You can always email us. And we look forward to seeing you guys back in August. And hopefully it's not a night with a lot of games on.
Right.
We know it won't be the All-Star game.
No.
Sorry about that, Joe.
No problem.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Yep.